Hello, and welcome to Entrusted, sharing your talents with the good of the world. We're so glad you're here with us. And if you're new, then we give you a special welcome because we are a brand new podcast. And you're here to witness the third guest episode. We're so excited. And speaking of it being new, we would be so grateful if you would please subscribe and share this podcast. Help us just to build momentum. You're on ground zero with us as we're just getting going. So we're so excited that you're here. Our guest for tonight for this episode is Therese Brown. Not only is she a dear friend, but she's also a talented runner, and that love of running has also brought out another talent for her. She's a head coach for women's cross country, indoor track, as well as the head coach for track and field at Cathedral Prep here in Erie, PA. And these roles are all in addition to her being a wife and mother of six. Welcome, Therese.
Thank you, Susan. It's great to be here.
Well, I can't wait to get into this. I want to hear the whole backstory. Like
Okay.
when did you find out, first of all, I suppose that you were a good runner, or when did you get into running, even if you weren't a good runner to begin with?
So I got into running when I was 6 years old, pretty little. I grew up in New York City, outside of New York City. And so that was a time when the running boom was hitting, right? It was the early 1970s. And my dad was a runner and he had a bunch of friends who were runners. And so he just let me tag along, which was kind of amazing, right? They would go out for runs on the weekend and I was this little kid and I wanted to run and he made me, he'd say like, if you want to run with us, you have to be able to run a mile. And so I worked for some weeks to learn a mile. And I just found that it was very natural to me and I just kind of loved it. And then of course, the more I ran, I was able to run in some road races and we go into New York City on the weekends and run in Central Park, which was kind of fun. And yeah, so I guess I kind of caught the running bug young, but I would say it was a gift because I really was pretty uncoordinated as a kid. So I wasn't good at any sport, truly. Like, yeah, I tried like softball, I tried volleyball, and I was always that kid who they put in when they had no one left, or like, one in, and they have like, half an inning at the end of the game just to kind of be nice. So yeah, so it was good that I was pretty good at running. And where I grew up, they had track and field for kids starting in first grade. And so that was huge because everybody did it. It was through the CYO. So if you belonged to a parish, you could do it. And yeah, so we did it like most of the year, just not in the winter. And so yeah, through that, I found that I loved it and just kind of stuck with it forever.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have how many siblings do you have?
So I'm the fourth of six children.
Fourth of six. Okay.
Mhm.
Were there other runners in your family besides your dad?
Um, my dad ran. My mom definitely did not run. Yeah, I mean, I think we all ran at different times. And I had one younger sister who was pretty serious about it as well. We all dabbled in it. It was kind of a good thing for big families because you could take everybody, to the track meet and they can all participate and we weren't going to a zillion different things. So yeah, so it was kind of, I guess people would think of our family that we were runners, but I'm not sure my siblings would all identify themselves as runners. Yeah,
So I understand that you ran while you were in college, Dartmouth.
I did. Yep. So I ran
Okay.
in, yeah, I ran in high school and then I was fortunate enough to be able to run in college. And then
Wow.
I continued to run for probably 5 years after college I was living in Boston and then in Austin, Texas. And so I was running at that level. And then sort of that was the end of my serious running, right? Um, Lasted a long
Well,
time.
what was there? I had heard whispers of you were invited, something with the Olympics. Will you tell us about that?
Oh, no, I
Oh,
wasn't
please.
the Olympics, but, no, when I was, 1992, I was, competing at the time for the Boston Athletic Association and, qualified to run in the Olympic trials, but no, not the Olympics.
Amazing.
Well,
Well,
it was
that's
pretty
amazing.
cool, but it was, yeah, but it was, obviously that was kind of the top the top what I got to, and
Right,
that was
right.
cool.
Was that a difficult thing for you to realize, like, when you finished your running career, as
Mhm,
you said,
mhm.
was that
Yeah.
were you getting closer to having a family, or was that
I
difficult to let
I
go of
was
that?
married. Yeah, it just was that, you get to a certain point with the sport and whether when you really have to say this is now it's sort of like a pyramid, right? Like everybody does it and it gets narrower as it goes up. And then, I found myself, my husband was in graduate school, so I was working to support him and us, and I was trying to run, and I had a job which was increasing in responsibility. And yeah, it just sort of got to the point where it's a little frustrating because I couldn't, like most of the people I was training with or competing against for sure were not working serious jobs, and their sport was their primary focus of their life, and it just couldn't be for me. So I kind of hung on as long as I could, but it got to the point where I just thought, well, it wrote its course, and it's a sport you can do forever, just, without competing at that level. So yeah, I think it was pretty clear to me that that was the time. you know, just
Right, right.
yeah.
Well, and especially, like, if you like you just said too, you were supporting your husband at the time, and
Yes,
that you
yes.
had a different something you had something else that you were striving toward. So
Absolutely, and, we wanted a family, and I think the world, at least then, of sport and, probably in any area that people are trying to really achieve, there's an element of selfishness in it, really. I mean, I would say that for sure, even with myself, because you're focused so much on making sure I'm taking care of myself and doing the training I need that I think I just got to the point, and even then, after when I had children, and I was sometimes tempted to get kind of lured back into competitive running, and um, yeah, I just kind of realized that I was thinking too much about it for myself, and I thought I had so many years that I was able to do that. Now I have kids and I have a husband and yeah, so I felt like I just sort of stayed away from that side of it intentionally because I got my personality just gets very sucked in, and I knew something would be compromised, and it wasn't going to be me. So that wasn't so good.
well, so you were able then to hold on to many of the parts of running that you do love.
Yeah.
As a mother of 7 myself, and you have 6 kids?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the parts that you do love that you're able to still experience and enjoy while you're running?
Yeah. Well, I'm a lot slower, and so I would say I'm just sort of a trotter these days. I'm not sure if I would say running, but, I think what I always loved most about running, and I think it's why I enjoyed it so much when I was a kid, because when I was very young, I used to run these long road races, right? In fact, I before they put age caps on it, I ran marathons when I was little, like 11 years old, ran the New York City Marathon, which you would never be allowed to
Oh,
do now, right? But I
wow.
think when I reflect on it, what I love the most was just the solitude. Like for a kid, that's probably a weird thing to say. Like I loved being out there in my own head. And it could
Mm,
be for hours, right? When you're running 26 miles, it's hours. And so I love that. Like, so even after I had children, to be able to go out and run for like 30 minutes without interruption, to me, that was like super cheap therapy, right? It's just like, it's just, it's so healthy. It just kind of rejuvenated me. And I think that's the part of running I have loved. And it doesn't matter how fast you run at all to do that. You just have to put your foot in front of the other and go out the door. And I love that solitude.
mm. Well, I love the solitude, but I have to say I could never say that running was a talent of mine. But this hit you at such a young age. You found this, or it found you at such a young age. To me, that is, I think that that's part of the definition of a natural talent.
Mm,
I'm curious about that because it seems what I'm hearing you say, I could be wrong, but what I'm hearing you say is that it came easy to you. Do you feel that that's like, is there such a thing as a natural runner, or do you always
mhm.
have to just be working at it? It sounds like you really enjoyed it and still
Yeah.
do.
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I think probably, yeah, there's an element of being a natural runner. I was definitely not a natural softball player, any of those other sports, but I was pretty fast, and I
Mm,
could run, and I took pride in that. And I think even with anything that comes naturally, like if you want to get better at it, it's never going to be easy, right? There's something about just being able to really push yourself somewhere. And I think with running, this is distance running is, um, it's very typical that you have to be able to just go to this place that, um, most people probably don't want to go there, because it's really a deep place of enduring suffering. Really, it's enduring suffering for a greater purpose. And it could be for your own success, or it can be for if you're running for somebody else, certainly if you're running for a team, just being willing to go to that place and the satisfaction afterwards is great. But I would say that um, no matter how fast a runner you are, and we look at like the Olympians and the best runners in the world, it looks so easy, but they're working so hard and they're enduring something that the people watching just don't even see. So, um,
I'm
yeah,
curious. I've always won. Oh, please go ahead.
no, I feel like for me, maybe that's a weird thing. Like I actually love that. Like some people
Mm.
would hate that. My sister, who was just a
Oh,
year older than me, she hated that and she thought I was crazy to ever try to do what I did. But I actually, yeah, just my personality. Like for me, that was the challenge, and it's a quiet challenge because nobody really sees it. You're just kind of
hmm.
working and um, kind of pretty private. And yeah, so I think that was what I. So yeah, it did come easy, and fortunately, I was blessed to have very good coaches throughout my career, so that I was being well mentored, and so I was seeing the fruits of the work. I think if I didn't have good coaches and I wasn't progressing, I probably would have walked away. So
Right.
it's not just yourself; it's others helping. So
Hmm. I'd like to talk a little bit about what you just said with that endurance. When you would hit a wall, I've heard it referred to like that, or you just
yeah.
feel like I'm done. My body is feeling this, or your body is feeling this. What what reserve did you go to? Where would you go to be able to find the
Mhm.
stamina again, push past the physical pain?
So I can't really speak for when I was very young because I don't think I remember, but I definitely, as I got older and just with my own faith, I think having an understanding of redemptive suffering
Mm.
in the Catholic faith, that's something that we can actually like align our own suffering with that of Christ for the benefit of somebody else. And so I know specifically, I remember when my grandfather was very sick and he really suffered for many years. And I remember being in workouts where I just would like tell myself when I got really tired, like, well, he's tired too, and he's pushing, and I can do this for him. And as in a weird way, because I was out on a track and he was laying in a bed, but it was like I was able to kind of unite what I was going through for him. And so that has always been, no, that's not to say that whenever I'd get tired, I would always be able to, sometimes I would really slow down and give up as well. But I think for me, there's just that like digging deeper. It's something that just, I saw more meaning in it, I think, than just suffering, right? For suffering's
Beautiful.
sake. Yeah.
Right. Is that something that your father also passed on to you?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember when we used to run, we would pray, somebody would be out for a long run. He'd say, why don't we pray rosary? And I find it very difficult to pray rosary running because I just say like 100 Hail Marys in a row. Like I can't keep track. So, um, but my dad is a very faithful man. And I think that I'm sure what my parents instilled in us faith wise kind of manifested itself in how I approach sport, is what I think probably.
Mm, that's
So,
beautiful.
mm,
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So I'd like to talk about when you moved into coaching. Okay. So you've been coaching now over 15 years?
yeah, I'm finishing my 15th year. Yeah.
Wow. I remember when you
15
started.
unplanned years. Here I am.
Well, okay, unplanned. That's where I was headed.
Very, very, very,
So this
very.
wasn't something on the horizon for you.
No, I mean, in all honesty, when I was finishing college, I had discerned going into college coaching. I had an opportunity to coach at the college level, and I didn't do it. Partly because my husband now had done it for a little bit, and he realized that you really don't have much of a life if you're doing that. Like you're never going to be around for your children because you're traveling, you're recruiting. Your time is not your own. So I sort of gave up on that idea, and then as I was getting older, thought it would be really fun to coach high school because I feel like there's, when you get to the college level, it's sort of business in a way, and in high school, you really have this great opportunity to really have an impact, as my coaches did, on the life of the athletes that are put in my path. And so it was always like, one day I might do that. But of course, I was homeschooling my kids and I had 6 of them. And it really, none of our kids were in the schools and we're not from this area. So I didn't have any connection. And then my neighbor actually came over one day because she knew I would go out and do my little trot. And she coached at her daughters were on the team at Villa Maria. And the coach, I don't know what happened, but they didn't have a coach about a month into the season. And she said, they're looking for a coach. Would you think about it? And I thought, whoa, that is really from left field. And I had my son, Michael, who was 2 months old at the time. I talked to my husband. I said, well, I'll consider it. Like, what are your expectations? And they said, just get them through this 5 weeks. And I thought, okay, I think I can do that. I'm going to have a baby with me all the time. And I'm not going to go on the bus with the kids. I'm going to drive my own car. But I can do 5 weeks. And so here we are 15 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did not know that was going to be happening for for all those years to come. But
Right.
I'm
Right.
grateful. I'm grateful that it
So
did.
you were homeschooling all 6 kids?
I
Well, with the
was.
except for
I was.
Michael.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they have transitioned with you then, if this has been
Oh,
for 15
yeah.
years.
So, like, for my youngest, this has been his life. We laugh, we say probably the only time he didn't go to the Pennsylvania State meet was during COVID. Like, he's been his whole life, and he's grown up. He's grown up with a lot of teenagers in his life, and now he's on the
Right.
team, which is kind of cool because he's
Wow.
a freshman in high school. So,
Right. Right. So
yeah.
you had an opportunity then to coach your kids, all of them?
I did actually. I have been able to coach because I was Villa Marie and Cathedral Prep, as long as I've ever been coaching, has been a sort of it's been one school with the same headmaster, just 2 different campuses, boys and girls. So I coached girls cross country, but even though I coached girls cross country, the boys team was very close. We did a lot of stuff together, competing at the same meets, and then track was always co-ed. So from the day I started track, I was coaching boys and girls.
Mhm.
And then when 3 years ago, the schools merged into one building, and Cathedral Prep, it's a co-ed school. So it was pretty seamless. But so I was able to actually coach my girls at Villa and then my boys in track at Prep. And now my husband is the cross country coach now at Prep. So everything is together. So yeah.
Really
So
is
my
a
poor
family
kids.
sport.
It is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Has that been challenging having, to wear the 2 different hats, mom and coach?
Yeah.
Or has it lent itself to being a really good, experience for you all?
Well, I think in the end, it's positive. I think that I'm grateful for the time with my kids because I just know if I wasn't involved in their life, I wouldn't see them half as much as I have been able to.
Mm,
I do feel a little bit bad for my kids because I feel like sometimes they probably just wish they had a coach and they had a mother separate,
mm,
and I'm so integrally tied into everything in their lives. Their social lives are, tied into their teams, and their mother's always around. So, I don't know if I were in high school, I'm not sure I would love that, but they're very gracious and they're kind to me. And it's fun to be able to work with them and to give, to help guide them because for most of them, they've been pretty interested in running. And so it's been good to be able to help them out, I'm helping a lot of other
sure.
people's kids. So hope it's good to help my own too.
Right.
It would be very different if I didn't. I most likely would not be doing this if my children were not involved because it takes a lot of time and it would be time away from them. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Mm. Well, being around that many young people, I'm sure, has kept your finger on the pulse of what's happening
Mhm. Yep, you bet. Pretty much.
with
All
kids,
those little slang words, they're kind of shocked when I know what they're All those new words that come up. Yeah, but it's great, you know?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love the
that's
young
great.
people. I think they're special, and they don't get the credit they should get, I think, in our
Mm,
society, so it's
mhm.
good. It's a lot of good kids.
So you have been coaching at this is a Catholic high school. I'm
Yes.
curious what it's been like. Have you been able to share your faith with the
Mhm.
kids? Have you found that to
Yes.
be a natural fit or, you know,
Yes.
it's been a bit of a challenge? Can you talk
No,
a
I
little
would
bit
I
about
I
that?
would say it's very natural. You know, I think it's what keeps me coaching in Catholic school,
Mm,
because there's a freedom, and I see my role as a coach, you know, I'm helping kids get better at a sport, but the truth is, you know, sport ends. um, and we can learn a lot from sport. But most important is I really do feel deep in my heart that these children, these young people are put in my life for a reason. And I have a great responsibility to them because these are very formidable years. And I don't think high school kids are necessarily listening to their parents as much as they're willing to listen to other people like coaches or even teachers. And so um, our faith is an integral part of our team. Like I think everything we do is rooted in faith, especially in cross country because it's a smaller, like our track team has 90 kids. So it's a little harder to have that influence with all those kids over 6 weeks or 8 weeks of the season. But in cross country, we spend the whole summer training together and the season is a few months long. And you know, on so many levels, prayer is so integrated. You know, we pray, we choose a verse, not just because it sounds good and it has something to do with running. You know, that the seniors on the team really spend a good chunk of the summer like reading scripture until they find that verse that they want to put on the back of their shirt for the year. And so it always has
that's
meaning to our
cool.
team. Yeah, it's really cool. And they know that's like something that they have to do and they have to do it well. And they never fail. It's always like
Mm,
just what we needed for that season. And we're very fortunate to have Father Jason as a chaplain at our school. He's great. And he comes and we pray every Friday together as a team. We go in the chapel. We pray every day before we have a meet. We do intentions so they learn how to do spontaneous prayer. We pray Decade of the Rosary together. We go to camp for 4 days, and during that time, Father Jason comes out and we have, which is really beautiful, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament at night outside on the campgrounds in the dark. It's all illuminated with candles, and it's a powerful experience. So many of these kids, even though they're in Catholic school and they maybe are being raised in Catholic families, they don't necessarily maybe never have taken much time to really focus on their own relationship with God and what His plans are for them for their life. And I really try to focus with them in the time we have is coming to know who you are and the gifts that God gave you and what He wants you to do with those gifts. And so yeah, it's actually a beautiful experience because on our team we have a lot of different kids who, if you took them all, not knowing anything about them and threw them in a room, you'd say, what in the world do they have in common? Or with these really kind of cool kids, take time to get to know that really quiet kid or something like that. And they actually really discover the beauty in each other. So when we go to camp, for 4 days, there's no phones. The first thing they do is turn their phone over to the seniors and they get locked away for the 4 days, which the kids look forward to be honest. And often when we're leaving camp, they're like, oh, yeah, our phones, like they forget because there's such freedom. They're always on their phones. This generation has probably grown up with them. And so they're just present to each other and able to see the beauty in each other. And we do a lot of we do running, but it's mostly more like character stuff and listening to like trying to grow in faith and as human beings. And so I do take that really seriously. I think more than the running. I'd rather have a team of kids that really grow as human beings, as Christian women, than to have a really fast team. And we've been
mm,
fortunate to have both. So that's good.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, you have.
yes, we have, but yeah, but I would trade the speed before the character and the 'cause
Mm.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, this has
So
really become a ministry,
it is a ministry. It
not
is a
just a job.
ministry. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I feel like it really is because if you care about the people in front of you, if you love them and you want them to become who they're supposed to be, life is short. We get one shot at it, and I want them to realize and they're all so different. They're all so different, and I want them to see that what they have, they're growing up in a world of comparison, social media. They're constantly noticing everyone else's gifts and wishing they had them while missing out on their own gifts. And so the whole idea is to help them see their gifts. And for some kids on our team, it has nothing to do with running. They may be the last kid on the team to finish a race, but what they bring is invaluable to the group. So, yeah, so for me, very much it's a ministry. And I hope at the end of the day that they've come to a deeper relationship with Christ and to know that He has beautiful plans for their life, and um, that's at the heart of it. And it's an amazing thing because I think when you start there, He's with you, and He has proven time and
Right.
time again that He has been with our team. And we've had some really challenging experiences with the kids on our team and families, and He has sustained our team. And there's no doubt that we give a little, He gives a lot more in return.
Right.
So.
What an important role you've held. And I'm sure this is, as you've run, like you had said before, that it would be just kind of solitude. This is probably given that, first of all, you're feeding them, and then they have this opportunity. You're like holding space for them to digest what they're learning with the
Mhm.
rest of the team and with their relationship with God. And then they're able to put that into practice and um, push past their own boundaries, I'm sure, with speed, but
Yeah.
also in their own life. And like you said, there's been some challenging
Mhm.
experiences, I'm sure. You don't go through a school year without running
No.
into some
Yeah,
difficulties.
yeah,
So, mm,
yeah, we have, and it's kinda beautiful. I mean, in some ways, it's been very humbling for kids um and hard things that kids shouldn't have to experience at this age, and,
yeah.
loss, tremendous loss, and,
Mm,
but for them to pull together, it's just beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see, and I think something is forged that's much deeper than, I always tell them the metals will gather dust, and you may not
right.
remember your time. I probably will, 'cause I remember
Mm,
times, but they'll remember something much greater, and that's just,
sure.
hopefully not just memories, but actually being formed to be something greater.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you did mention metals, so I do want to go here. I
Yeah.
have it written. I didn't want to get it wrong. So, well, first of all, you have been given an honor of the Erie Times News Sportswoman of the Year for your contribution. I just want to say
No,
congratulations to
thank
that,
you.
and very well deserved. Very well deserved. Hearing
Thank
all of
you.
this, I think much more than even the community is aware. So you have been able to coach prep and, well, it's now, so it went from an all boys school joining with an all girls
Yes,
school.
yes.
So, yeah, the combination between the former Villa Maria Victors
Mhm.
and the current Ramblers, your teams have won 5 state titles and finished seventh or better in the standings for 12 of the last 14 state meets.
Yeah.
Did I get
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Impressive.
Yeah. I don't know about the yeah, I think so, and we've been very fortunate. Um, we've been very fortunate, and so,
Mm,
yeah, and both at Prep and Villa, there was a big hiatus. We had 3 state titles in a row at Villa, and then we had
mm,
a bit of a little hiatus, and which was actually a really good thing for our team, I think, to you can get a little cocky and you can get a little presumptuous that these things are going to continue happening. And I think it was really good for us to be really knocked down. We didn't even qualify for states in 2019. And um, that was humbling, to be like, whoa, we were like terrible at the district meet and we'd never lost the district meet. Like it was, but it was a real gift. It was a real gift because ultimately we then knew we had to rebuild and we knew we had to go back to all that hard work that the kids had done years earlier. And we just kind of, everyone just assumed like, yeah, we win. And it takes a lot of work. And so it was good. And then it was so much more appreciated when we finally got back there. So
mhm,
yeah,
mm. That's special. And that's a perfect perspective on it too. So I'm sure these
yeah,
are all life lessons that they will
yeah,
be able to take into their
yeah.
life.
I think one of the
Yeah.
best things that ever happened was that we had a really terrible year that we
Oh,
just I really think so because, and it wasn't like we were terrible and then the next year we were great. We weren't. We were really terrible, and then we started building back, and I just think that was, it also helps you appreciate the gifts you've been given because if you just think that's what you get, it's, yeah.
so have you ever had, well, I imagine students that were really reluctant, maybe they didn't believe in themselves or just never even thought of running,
Yes.
that you've had an opportunity to kind of bring them into a little bit more of experiencing their talent that they have.
Yeah, for sure. So, one thing that I noticed in coaching both track and cross country is that there are some kids who join because they just need to belong. We all need to belong. And, I think right now, forget what this study was, who did this study, but just talking about belonging, that in this time when we have so much social media, so many clubs, kids that belong to a zillion travel sports and whatever, we have the greatest feeling of unbelonging or non belonging in history, especially
Mhm.
probably with all people, but definitely young people. And so um, I mentor for this organization called Given Institute, where we mentor young women, out of college, so starting in their careers. And there's a professor at Franciscan University, Joshua Miller, who did our training, and it was really great. I think also with what he trained us, and then also some of the things he referred to in seeing the person in front of you, right? And so one of the things that I picked up and one of the things I read was, that everybody needs to be um, noticed, like named, noticed, and known, right? Or noticed, named, and known. And so I started noticing these kids that would come out and they actually were never named and they were never noticed. And some coaches just never got to know them. Like to go through a season where a coach doesn't know your name, and I'm talking about like we have a bigger team, right? And like to me, that's really tragic because you can say, oh, I'm on a team of 75 kids, but I don't feel like I belong. And so that's one of the things I really focus on with our coaching staff. We have 9 coaches on our track staff, is to say that every single kid, you need to know their names. You need to know them and you need to take time to actually get to know them, right? A little bit. Like what are their interests? What is their life? What are their challenges? Why are they late to practice or why are they sad at practice? Like we need to know. And once kids know that they are noticed and that you are taking interest, that has been my experience. So I've had kids where I remember these parents said to me, "You said something to our daughter her first week or two of practice her freshman year." Now she was a senior when they told me this. I said, "I don't even remember what I said to her." And they said, "You told her you thought she could be really good if she just kept working." And I said, "Yeah, I might have said that. Like I believe that." And they said she never was passionate about anything in her life ever. She was the one who had nothing that she was good at. And you said that to her and it inspired her. And she ran on our state team, at Villa, So I think this was a kid who, and so frequently, I say to my coaching staff, you look the kid in the eye and you tell them something positive because people are so hungry to be noticed. And we're not lying. We're actually just taking the time to affirm somebody. And so I think that we have had many kids who come out who think like, I could never be a good runner. And some of them never become great runners, but with running, it's all, quantitative. And so uh, you're going to get better if you practice. So even if you're slow, you're going to get less slow, right? And so that's
Right?
passion. And I am just as thrilled about that as a coach than I am for the kid who could be a state champion because you're just using the gift you have, right? And so yeah, I do believe that if we are more encouraging of these kids, because I do see it, in some sports, it's like we don't cut, we don't cut. It's not like you stink, you're not on the travel squad, you're not this, you're like, come on out. And I would say, if you're willing to work, I'm willing to work with you. And we've had some great surprises, of kids, that we had no idea, and they turn out to land up running Division 1 in college. It's pretty
Wow.
amazing. Yeah.
Have you stayed in touch with many of your runners?
I do. Yeah, I do. For a long time, we always did a big open house at Christmas, which they're bugging me to do again. But COVID sort of put a little nip in that. And then I've always been, oh my gosh, the alums have gotten so much more, there's so
Oh,
many of them now. I'm like, oh, I have them all over. So, but I do keep in touch with them, and they
wow,
keep in touch with
wow.
each other. And it really, it's a very special time. It's a special time for them. It's a special time for me. And, I feel like it's like you're part of a family and we never lose you. And they still, like those girls who ran at Villa in 2014, 15, still come out to our meets to cheer on the Cathedral Prep girls. They send the messages before states because there's
That's
that
great.
bond and they know they have all had the same experience, like different individual, but they've all done camp. They've all had the verses. There's just so many traditions we do that they have all been
Mm.
part of. And so, yeah, it's cool. I said, one day when I'm retired, all I want is just a big party where they all come back and I can see them, and it's really cool. That's the
Wow, the
greatest
lives you've
gift.
touched. That is, you're
Yeah.
sharing life. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is. Makes me want to go back and will you be my coach, Therese?
Sure, Susan. If you have a good attitude, I'll work it.
I don't know that I'll get less slow, but I'm just saying.
You will. You will. We're getting older, so it's all relative.
Right.
We keep moving is good. Yeah.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
you've had such an impact on these kids. I'm curious, do you think you've coached any future coaches, or do you know of
Mm.
any of your runners that have become coaches themselves?
So my assistant coach in cross country right now is one of my former athletes. So she
Oh,
was on
wow.
the first team that I coached here, and she was a great story because she, was deciding between cheerleading and cross country. So like that just gives you an idea. And she actually chose cheerleading for the first few weeks and then missed the kids and she came back. But she landed up running and she still runs. And yeah, I would guess that I hope that kids that I coach will want to coach. I definitely think I'm the coach I am because my high school coach was such an influence in my life,
Mhm.
such a great mentor, such a giving person to me that I feel like, gosh, it's so fun to do this for kids, and I hope that they then want to do this for other kids. I really do.
Mm.
So
That's wonderful.
yeah,
Well, as we wrap up, I have one more question for you.
sure.
Do you have any words of advice for someone who maybe is thinking about becoming a coach, but maybe feels like, oh, I could never do everything that Mrs. Brown does, or I could never, but maybe they just have that sense inside, or
Mhm.
how could you encourage them to use their talent,
Yep.
whether they know they have it or not?
And they do. And look, I feel like with my own self, I didn't know if I could be a good coach. It's something you discover as you go. And I hope I'm becoming a better coach because it's a process. And so I would say for somebody interested in doing this is like step-by-step progress. You can't do everything right away. I think it's a continuous learning process. I realized when I went into coaching, I had been running for so many years, but I really didn't understand why I was doing what I did. And that is credit to having good coaches because they worried about what I was doing. I just ran and listened. And so I was trying to consume a lot of material, right? Reading and it is good to read. It's good to talk to other people in it, but it's also you have to just allow your own gifts to kind of unfold. Get to know that your athletes are working with. I think the most important thing for me is to know that you're working with human beings in front of you who deserve to be treated with great respect. Challenge them to great things, but also um, really, try to just affirm them and make them see the gift that they are. The gift that they exist on this earth is amazing. They're unrepeatable, right? Like they're amazing. And I really think that if you approach it that way, they trust you. That's the number one thing. And then do your homework, right? But also be patient. It took us 4 years. The first year I coached, we were, um, I want to say like 14th in the district, and there might have been 15 teams, right? I mean, so it's a work in progress, and just be patient. It's like planting a garden. It doesn't all come up the first year beautifully. Just let the kids help you grow, do your homework, and be real. They see me at my best and my worst, and they know I'm just human. But I think most of all, they know I love them, and they know that I love God, and I feel like I want Him to be part of their lives. And yeah, so that's what I would say. Don't not do it because I was thinking I was doing it for 5 weeks and I didn't know what I was doing, and here I am, right? So you feel called to it. Kids need great role models. They crave it in high school, and they're mostly not going to their parents. And so if they're going to somebody, make sure they're going to be going to somebody that's giving them good stuff. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Words of wisdom. Thank you. And I hope you realize what a gift you are.
Oh,
So
well,
many lives
thanks.
that
I'm
you've touched.
trying. I'm grateful. I feel like this has been a great
Mm,
gift to me, to be very honest. It has been a
wonderful.
real gift in my life, so I'm grateful. Yeah.
Mm. Well, thank you, Therese, for sharing so much of your journey and your story. And it's
Susan.
been incredibly inspirational. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much
you
for
for
being
doing what
with
you're
us.
doing because it's been great. I've loved watching your podcast
Oh,
and you're bringing your gifts, and I think it's an important thing for all of us to recognize that we do have things to share and we need to.
mm.
So, thank you.
Oh, it is
Great.
an honor. It truly is an honor. Well, thank you to all of you who have joined us. This has just been an absolute delight. And like I said, just an inspiration to listen to Therese. I hope that you will join us again. If you would please consider subscribing, helping us get the momentum going. We'd really appreciate it. And if you know somebody or you yourself have a talent that you would like to share, please reach out to me, Susan at harborlilycreative.com. It really would mean so much if we could share more talents out there because the world really does need what you've been given. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.